The WBC says they like the idea of Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz. Stay tuned. Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Well. WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman spoke with Sky Sports. Link is in the description. And he commented on, I guess he's heard the rumblings of Luis Ortiz and Dillian Whyte, the back and forth banter between the two. This is what the president of the WBC told to Sky Sports, and I quote, "We will welcome that Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz and do a final elimination for the second mandatory while we address Dominic Breazeale," Sulaiman told Sky Sports. "I truly believe Dillian Whyte is very much deserving of the #1 position where he is ranked. Dominic Breazeale is a mandatory contender for specific circumstances which happened last year, and that's the bottom line." And then the article says, Whyte has questioned why he has not received a mandatory shot at WBC champion Deontay Wilder instead of Dominic Breazeale, who has not fought since a stoppage over Molina. The WBC expects to deliver their final ruling about the mandatory status in a few weeks, but Sulaiman remains committed to making a blockbuster bout between the winner of Wilder's title fight with Tyson Fury and unified champion Anthony Joshua. Sulaiman said, quote, "He is challenging the WBC ruling, which he has all the rights to do so, and we're going to be addressing it because it was very tight between our meeting, his appeal letter, and the convention. We could not do the due process at that time. We're going to address it." Basically, he does not accept that WBC recognizes Dominic Breazeale as a mandatory, and he is claiming the WBC to withdraw recognition of Dominic Breazeale and to appoint him the mandatory. We will certainly look into his appeal and address it. I would say in the following 2-3 weeks, however, everything is based on December 1st and then on trying to make the fight with Anthony Joshua. Whatever is decided, there comes precedence for importance. If the Joshua Wilder fight or Joshua Fury, end quote. So he's basically saying WBC had other things to do. They put together a big convention in the Ukraine, and they had a ton of orders and fights that were ordered, like Jermall Charlo versus Triple G, winner supposed to get Canelo, etc. So they didn't have time to look at his appeal, but they're saying they will get to it in the upcoming weeks. Now, things are heating up. Luis Ortiz is calling you out. Dillian Whyte said that Luis Ortiz was ducking. I see no reason why this fight can't happen. Both guys are now engaged in the trash talking. I understand Dillian Whyte wants to get a title shot and he wants to fight Wilder, but Wilder already has a big fight with Tyson Fury in December 1st, right? So that's not happening this year. It has already been discussed that Dillian Whyte will fight again this year. So why not fight Luis Ortiz or fight Dominic Breazeale, two people that mean more? You know, I think Luis Ortiz, from a fan perspective, that fight means the most. The WBC is saying they're welcoming that, and we'll rank you as the second mandatory, right? Which is what they've done in the past. They just said this to Shawn Porter, who's the WBC champion, right? They said that he has Keith Thurman as his mandatory when Keith is healthy, and then they also said Andre Berto's the mandatory. So you have Dillian Whyte or his side who's doing all this to appeal, but guess what? You're not the only one who has to go through different things like this. You know, Shawn Porter, he fought against Andre Berto, which was supposed to be an eliminator for Keith Thurman's belt, right? Facts. He fought him in April. He beat him by stoppage. Then the WBC threw Adrian Granados at him. You know, good fight. I was at both of those fights, and he beat Adrian Granados. You know, even got a hand injury in doing it, right? And they still didn't order him to fight Keith Thurman. However, it worked out for Shawn Porter because Keith Thurman had been out of the ring so long, MIA, he was pretty much forced to relinquish at least one of his belts with the WBC and became a champion in recess. But they never ordered the Keith Thurman fight, right? And now that Shawn Porter is the WBC champion, I just did a video about this. He has 2 mandatories, which is Keith Thurman and they said Andre Berto. So Dillian Whyte doing all this to appeal. Why don't you just fight, Luis Ortiz? It's a meaningful fight. And I look at it like this. If the Wilder and Joshua fight, or the winner of Wilder Fury and Joshua cannot happen, which it looks like based on Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn, what they're saying, there's already turmoil. They're saying we want to negotiate right now, and they're only trying to negotiate with one person, even though it's a 2-person fight, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I haven't heard him say anything about sending Tyson Fury an offer, which leads me to believe they don't really want to be undisputed, because you can't just automatically in a fight like that assume that Deontay Wilder wins. Tyson Fury is a good fighter. He proved people wrong with the Klitschko fight, so there's a chance he could win. Why would you only send an offer to one guy if you truly want April 13th to be the fight date where Joshua becomes undisputed heavyweight champion? Tyson Fury already says they'll never fight me, right? So why would you send the negotiations or whatever to only Wilder? So, more smoke screens to me. But even besides that fight has to happen. Dillian Whyte's supposed to come back. And if you're really going to make Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua a fight we already seen, basically a rerun, that there was no controversy in the first fight, I got to watch it again, but after 3 rounds or something, I don't remember it being like super tight or competitive. Like, it was semi-competitive, but I don't remember it being like a Canelo Triple G type of fight. I think Joshua started to pull away, but nonetheless, he got the knockout win, So if you really want to force that down the fans' throat, especially Americans, which you're trying to pitch this DAZN thing to, then, why not make Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz? Because at least fans respect Luis Ortiz, and that'll be a certifiable victory for Dillian Whyte if he can do it. Or Dominic Brazil called out Dillian Whyte, and he says, I'll fight him, and we'll settle the who's the mandatory for Wilder like that. Meanwhile, I've heard Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte really just talking about, especially Eddie Hearn. I haven't really heard much from Dillian Whyte, but I've heard Eddie Hearn talking about, oh yeah, we like the Ortiz fight if we can't get Derek Chisora. Why would Derek Chisora 2, be the priority over Dominic Brazil to settle this mandatory junk, or Luis Ortiz, which is a meaningful fight, and it makes, if Luis Ortiz wins, he should be the shoe-in if the Wilder Fury fight winner doesn't fight Joshua, or if Dillian Whyte wins, then he gets the rematch with AJ. It's because you have promoters, the guys in suits, they're trying to tailor make it and sell some tickets here and there. Oh, it's a big domestic rivalry. Remember the first fight, they were throwing chairs at each other and the press conference was wild. It doesn't mean much though. Dillian Whyte already got past him. Why are they trying to do with Matchroom? Why are they trying to do all these recycled bouts that we don't really need to see? I get it. Dillian Whyte has after his loss to Joshua, he's climbed back up the ladder somewhat, but he hasn't climbed back up the ladder, in my opinion, and fought somebody as good as a Luis Ortiz. So that would be a great segue to see who deserves, a title shot, who's really right there knocking at the door, because you have Gerald Miller, Dillian Whyte with the loss, and then Luis Ortiz with the loss to Deontay Wilder. They're all about the same level, right on the cusp of a title shot. So, Gerald Miller just fought on a card, last weekend. So let's see who really wants it and who advances. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Luis Ortiz, Dillian Whyte is the best possible fight. If not, at the very least, fight Dominic Brazil and Dillian Whyte so you don't have to be the second mandatory. But they're talking about not fighting either and fighting Derek Chisora, which is an unnecessary rematch. I don't understand why the UK would even be fans of that move. You know what I'm saying? I thought Derek Chisora won the first Dillian Whyte fight, but it's not something that warranted an immediate. Them guys can fight whenever. You know, if Dillian Whyte fought AJ or Wilder and lost, then he can fight Derek Chisora after that. You know, that's not going anywhere. You know, but like I said, my honest opinion, the top 2 picks for Dillian Whyte in December should definitely be Luis Ortiz and at the very least Dominic Breazeale. Both more meaningful, or you gain more either in the respect department, or you settle the eliminator situation with the WBC by fighting one of those 2 guys. You know, beating Derek Chisora, that doesn't really prepare the fans or really prove anything going into an AJ rematch, and it definitely doesn't settle the becoming Wilder's mandatory. Plus, you got to look at it like this. It sounds like Matchroom is on the cusp of getting Dillian Whyte the April date if the Wilder fight doesn't happen. So, you know, you becoming the mandatory doesn't really matter because you're going to get a title shot with AJ. So might as well fight Luis Ortiz, who is a meaningful fight. And if you can beat him, then you guys advance to AJ. You know, if he beats you, then he advances to AJ. But it looks like Matchroom doesn't want to take that risk by making that fight. You get what I'm saying? If Dillian Whyte fights Luis Ortiz, it's a credible fight and it's a credible win, and it'll be probably the best win of his career if he looked good in it. You know, and even more so than Joseph Parker, because even though Joseph Parker was a champion, that was also based on his circumstance. From a skill perspective, Luis Ortiz had 350 plus amateur fights. You know, he had like 343 wins and 19 losses or something crazy. You know, we seen how good he looked versus Deontay Wilder, how sharp he was. We seen him beat a guy that Joseph Parker had struggles with and didn't look great, Raz Kujanu. And I was at that fight. Luis Ortiz stretched him and knocked him out in 2 rounds. So as far as I'm concerned, if Dillian Whyte beats Luis Ortiz, that'll be the best name on his resume as a victory, you know, because he didn't win the AJ fight. If Luis Ortiz beats Dillian Whyte, then that'll probably be the best name on his resume, that or Brian Jennings. So let me know what you guys think. I'm glad that the WBC supports this fight. I support it. Let's see if it happens, or let's see if Matchroom tries to make Derek Chisora versus Dillian Whyte Part 2. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you smash the like button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.